welcome everybody to this Module 3 parallel session, the breakout session. This is one of the concurrent sessions that we have 3 sessions happening right now. This is the Module 3 Genotyping Tools and Services breakout, and this will be repeated tomorrow as well, the exact same presentation. So without further ado, I would just jump right into this, and yes. So give me a second here. All right. So this afternoon or evening for some of you, or morning, I would just really like to take roughly 20 minutes of this session to quickly walk through some of the general updates for Module 3, what has happened for the past year or so, and also, more importantly, to share with the folks here some of the upcoming directions of the or the work plan for Module 3 in 2021. So this slide was probably presented earlier by Bish in the plenary session. So if you do have some questions, please feel free to type them in under, make sure you select that, the session, and type them in, and then we can try to address them in the right order. So at the end of the session, I'll try to leave some time as well for everybody so that we can have a more extensive Q&A session afterwards. So quickly, I would like to introduce the current Module 3 members of EiB. Myself, I'm Eng Hua. I'm currently based in the Philippines. And then we have a moderator in the session, Ana Oliveira. She's currently based in Kenya. She's our, I would say, still new. She joined us this year as the Regional Genotyping Coordinator for EiB. And then Mike Olson, as many of you know him pretty well. He's a longtime CG person. He's currently in the US, but occasionally he's also based in Kenya. So he's our Module 3 support. And then Rajaguru Bohar, a lot of you might have interacted with him. He is currently the HTBG coordinator based out of ICRISAT. He is not officially an EiB Module 3 members, but we have a lot of constant communications through him, or sometimes a lot of discussions through him every time especially when we are dealing with a high throughput genotyping project or HTBG project. So, and then recently we also have Venki as a consultant. He's currently based in San Diego, USA. He's currently helping out with our high-density genotyping platform surveys and scoping. In the past, Venki had also supported Module 3 in the mid-density scoping work in early in 2019, which is what led to our mid-density platform. So quickly, this is a figure, if some of you were present in our previous year's EiB meeting. This is our a figure showing the 3 main phases of a modern breeding pipeline, which EiB is actively advocating. The phase 1 is more in the targeting phases, which is this is self-explanatory here, which is working with a lot of the work is with Module 1 and 2 to establish proper product profiles, designing the breeding schemes. Make sure that everything's well defined and prioritized. And then product development will go into this loop cycle where once we figure out what our product profiles are, we will go into a rapid recycling, and everything is sort of anchored around the advanced meeting where all the cross-functional teams will get together and decide and jointly make decisions on what to advance and what to what product to release and what tools, technologies to deploy, et cetera, et cetera. And then the final phase is the delivery phase, where this involves a little bit more on the seed system side, and a lot of national programs will be involved in this space as well. So where module 3, this is module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're just gonna focus more on module 3, how we come into this figure. In the material development phase, our contribution, our work is really mostly focused around the continuously scoping for new tools and technology to support genotyping. In particular, we are share services to accelerate the rate of genetic gains. Constantly, we're also adapting these services or support that we offer based on the breeding schemes and product profiles that are coming out of this targeting phase. A lot of work done in collaboration in module 1 and 2 in this, as well as the partners, because we would always like to fine tune our supports and services to make it the more relevant and cost effective to the breeding pipelines. Following the genetic gains equations, we hope that a lot of tools and services that we deployed would support the increased selection intensity and accuracy in the breeding product development as well. In the delivery phase, where we sometimes come in, depending on the crop needs, is the QA/QC application, and that's also actually applicable to the material development phase, where molecular tools can often be used to help ensure the quality of the seeds produced and breeding materials as they move through the breeding pipeline. So currently, there are 3 platforms available, or one of them is in a plan still for the high density. So the low density and mid density platforms are currently operational. For module 3, we realized that there's really not a one-size-fit-all platform for all the breeding applications that we are targeting. And often, depending on the crop status and the resource availability for some of the crop projects, there are some options that we would typically recommend for our partners. For low density, this is likely the most suited ones for trait-specific marker-assisted selection applications. Sometimes people do use it for background recovery as well. QA/QC applications, as mentioned in the previous slide, is a strong user for this low-density platform. Largely, this is due to the high confidence in the marker technology, the very robust CASP marker system. It is also quite cost-effective if you were to run less than 50 markers per sample. And especially useful also when rapid turnaround is needed for very decisive decision-making. And some examples for these applications could be in many RGA setup or for seed increase or purity tests, where you really need the results very fast and there's no going back, and you have very little time for extra bioinformatics work. So and then the next one is the mid-density platform. This platform is best suited for genomic selection applications, where marker density typically range from a few hundreds to thousands. It is, however, less forgiving than the low-density platform, and however, with some basic capacity in genomics and bioinformatics, we do see more and more crop teams are able to tap into start using this mid-density platform that we have. And more information on this I'll share with the group here in a little bit. And then finally, we have the high-density platform. This is likely the most expensive per sample cost, and it's also very species dependent. Typically, for a crop like rice versus wheat, you can really look at a cost difference of 10 to 20-fold difference if you were talking about the whole, parental genotyping. So the number of data points that you get out of this is typically in hundreds of thousands or upwards of millions. And this is really best suited, we thought, for creating elite parental references. And if this is well executed, it can also have a long-term return on investment. The high quality data that we generate, and if this is really done well, can be a leverage for to support the deployment of genomic selection. If you do this high density platform well, the requirements for routine usage per sample data point for mid density would also go down, as well as it can also very well support the low density market development and deployment. But however, this is not for all crops. Strong consideration needs to be given for the existing bioinformatics capacity. So moving on, Module 3, since the inception, has been constantly providing a lot of logistics and sampling support for all partners. This is something that we will continue to focus on, and especially when we now have more and more new breeding programs joining in using the shared services in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. This is going to be a constant service that we will continue to provide, and also as a refresher course for the new users. So just to touch on briefly on the importance of these sampling and logistics training. So one of the mission for Module 3 is really to support users to maximize investments made in genotyping. Often although this is not really the only cause for genotyping results not meeting or not meeting the criteria for decision making, but proper sampling and planning are probably the two leading causes for or factors in driving high quality genotyping results. Of course, we have other factors that we need to consider as well, and sampling and logistics are not the only ones. Such as the marker technology that are suitable for the crop species, the marker chemistry or the assay chemistry, and as well as some of the bioinformatics work, which led to the informativeness of the marker per se. These are all considerations for us having good data return, but somehow these are also a little bit out of scope for Module 3. So we really want to focus on providing support for sampling and logistics, which is well within our means to provide such type of support. So quickly, I would like to share some new changes on our EiB website and toolbox. So here, if you navigate to our Excellency Breeding website under modules, and you were to select genotyping tools and sequencing, you'll have a drop down where there's been some recent updates on the type of services as well as market informations that are available. A lot of work for this space is really done by Anna. Thanks to her contacting a lot of the key contributors and partners across the centers. We have started really since COVID updated a lot of these market informations as well as services and know-how. So if you click on the cast markers, these are new updates where there are many breakouts based on crops. If you click on the crops of interest, what you get is a list of available markers under our EiB shared genotyping platform, where this is an example from cassava. We have usually QC markers for that particular crop, any trait markers that are available. This will be downloadable to any users as an Excel file. So all the information on EiB website is currently freely available. Registration is not required, although if you are a registered user, the only different feature that you might get is actually you have the option to participate in discussion forums where it's traceable. So if you have any questions, or if you want to start a forum around, the evolving markers, some issues you are facing, you can start a thread there and list down all the people whom you like to participate, and you can ask questions, and Module 3 staff will be triggered if there's any questions asked around that, and we'll try to respond to whomever in the timely manner. So back to the main page, under Toolbox, there are some key toolbox searches here. So if you type in anything that you're looking for, or you can search by topic based on the modules. Right now we have this under Module 3. You'll be able to find a lot of resources that are associated with Module 3. So under Toolbox, what you'll find is there will be a lot of these tutorials on sampling know-how, YouTube videos, how to properly fill up order forms, and those sort of supporting informations. All those will be hosted right now under EiB Toolbox. And if you have any suggestions or for us to add it or add any new content, please do feel free to reach out to any of our EiB core members, in particular Anna, because she's been spending a lot of time in updating these informations. This is just an example of our low and mid-density genotyping services, a brochure. So moving on, I would like to highlight some achievements and status update for the EiB and HDBG, ICRISAT managed HDBG genotyping service update. So this is likely the longest running shared genotyping services we have to date. The project is expected to end sometime around December of this year. This is really just a project funding component of this HDBG project. Beyond 2021, the accessibility for low density will continue. Partners will still likely be able to access the service the same way they used to access the service. The only thing that is different is that, without the project support, we need to find other funding sources. If users would like to add new markers, a lot of you might remember that, there are some costs associated with adding markers and getting them validated onto the platform. That cost needs to be absorbed by some other projects, and users will have to be, will get an invoice for that now. That's really the only major difference. But the day-to-day routine services largely should be about the same. So again, I would like to really use this meeting to thank all the people who contributed to the success of the HDBG service, with the strong support from the many CGI and NARS program. I think the low density genotyping component are also, a lot of projects have started writing in the budgets for genotyping services for outsourcing through EiB in their grant proposal. So it's, this just goes to show that, more and more that the low density service is becoming integrated as part of the breeding operations. The addition of new partners, we continuously have new partners joining us. I really don't have the latest numbers. I would assume that we are in the 50 to 60 active users at the moment that are routinely accessing the low density services. We also have a lot of private partners, as well as advanced research institutes such as USDA and BRAPA, CIRAT, CSIRO. Some of the breeding programs are also actively using the HDBG service. So here's a list of the target crops. Again, continuously we're expanding this to more and more crops and species. Tilapia is a new species, which it's under the validation phase right now for the QC markers. On top of that, we have markers for tomato, cocoa, and coffee markers will also soon be available on the platform. For the users of other crops, if you do want to find out more information about this and how to add markers, do feel free to reach out to Rajaguru in particular to add new markers in, or any of our EIB members. We'll be able to happily support you and walk you through this process. So coming to the mid-density platform, this is the newest service offering from Module 3. The contract was officially signed sometime around August 2020. We have yet to have an official launch for this service, like a meeting, but the service is currently available. The way the mid-density platform was selected was actually through a tender process, which some of you might be actually involved in the tender process. And the final decision was made by the key users of or potential key users for this mid-density platform, as well as the steering committee for Module 3 coming together to make the decision on which vendor to select based on our predefined selection criteria. So really, why we decided to start this mid-density platform was, a lot of demand was coming from many users, especially a lot of crop projects are starting to venture into routine genomic selection. A production solution similar to the previous low density or HTBG is really needed. So briefly, I will, these service parameters are quite similar to the HTBG or low density platform. It's all in end-to-end service. Extraction for your materials will be done either at Intertech Sweden, India, or Australia. And the actual genotyping platform is actually dark tag. So once the samples are shipped to these Intertech labs, extraction will be done and they'll be automatically forwarded to DART for dark tag, which is a targeted amplicon sequencing platform. Under our pricing setup, we have somewhere, a few hundred or up to 4,000 SNP markers. Per sample cost right now runs around $11 for a 384 plex and $10 for 1536. We do expect the pricing to go down, but right now, in order to get the service started, this is probably the midpoint pricing that we're looking at, where it fits the more majority of the breeding applications. So the business days turnaround is 15 days. And one thing to point out is that since this is a custom amplicon sequencing, there is a setup cost, which will likely, it will also take around 6 weeks to get the assays ordered and go through the validation process of the assays. It is a $12 per assay cost. Right now, EIB is supporting some of these crop establishment in their panel setup. So do reach out to us if you think that this is something that you'll be interested in establishing a crop panel for genomic selection. Do reach out to Module 3 members for this. Here are some of the pilot crops that we have ready panel that can be used. These are rice, potato, common beans, wheat, and maize. Cowpea and sorghum will soon to come. I do want to point out, highlight our close collaboration with USDA Breeding Insight Project. They plan to also bring in 4 other new crop species, blueberry, alfalfa, sweet potato, and salmon onto the mid-density platform. So I think we are okay on time still. So quickly, I would like to share with the team here some upcoming activities or what to expect from Module 3 in 2021 and beyond. So as mentioned briefly, Anna will continue to provide the support to update and improve our low density CAS marker and mid density marker database. You might have seen from the previous slide that, right now the market information is an Excel file. In 2021, we do have plans to move this into some type of database where, users can just extract what they want, and it'll be a single point source to update these market information, just to make sure that, users will always have the up-to-date versioning of the markers. E-learning tools, with the COVID situation, this has become a very important feature that we like to, ramp up our support. So more e-learning tools to facilitate the usage of shared services will definitely come in the next couple months. And then, as mentioned briefly, we'll also start working on a new low-density service agreement. Currently, the legal framework is under review. But for Module 3, we'll also be reaching out to some of the routine users for inputs, as well as suggestions on, if there's any revisions in pricing structure. We'll take this on separately. Another key rollout for tools is this online sample submission tool. We expect this to become online, or at least the beta version of that to be available sometime mid-year of 2021. This is a collaboration with the EiB Gobi team, as well as the EBS members. This will be a generic tool serving all CG and NARS users to submit samples. And we do believe that this will be a very critical component to help us scale our shared services as more and more service users become interested and wanting to use the services. Just manually filling out the Excel file and exchanging order submissions to Excel is no longer, it's very tedious and is quite error prone. High density solutions, we likely start gathering some inputs and requirements to figure out what is the most feasible solutions for high density solutions. Module 3, again, will be reaching out to some key users on priority crops for inputs. We acknowledge that that's likely not going to be a single solution at the moment. They'll work across all species. So we'll likely have to prioritize based on, the crop species with the largest usage potential in the near term, in order for us to start any type of shared services in the high density platform. Regional workshops is on hold for 2020. If the COVID situation improves, we do hope that we will be able to get back on the road. But right now, it's unlikely that we have any activities until middle of 2021. Regional work plan and priorities in alignment with CTEH. This is actually my next slide, or almost the final slide here. So in summary, in order to support meaningful adoption of shared genotyping services, Module 3 will be prioritizing in 3 areas of work in 2021. We think this is also in a very strong alignment with the CTEH network strategy. So the first component is really around the centralized deployment strategy. And why is this needed? So deployment and uptake of the genotyping tools and services have been uneven to date. Typically, this is also very skewed towards, some of the better funded crops with, better technical capacity to utilize these services. Crops like maize, rice, and wheat, typically they have not a whole lot of issues in accessing genotyping services. Where we really want to help is really the smaller crops, and to establish this community of practice or unified strategy under the banner of CTEH. The key stakeholders involved, which we'll be reaching out to many of the CG centers and the crop genomic scientists and breeding leads as well, is to, again, to try to develop a unified trait deployment strategy as one example, establish a community of practice for Module 3 to support further deployment or unified deployment of genotyping tools and services. We will also be working closely with Module 5 colleagues on bioinformatics, as well as the bioinformatics network, which CTH under EiB will be establishing in the near future. So under the hub and spoke model, which I think Michael had explained in the plenary session, we envision also, the QA/QC and the genomic selection strategy to be routinely done out of key breeding hubs, and also be properly costed as part of the routine operational costs. So the second component is on operationalized genotyping. We will start working towards, incorporating genotyping costs as part of the entire end-to-end breeding package. Centers like EiB and ICRISAT, I believe, are well ahead of some of the other users, and they have started costing genotyping services as part of the whole operational package. We acknowledge that there's still a lot of room for improvement, so we will to make that transition, we will try to leverage CTH funding to establish a multi-crop charge account to support genotyping expenses throughout this transition. As long as the crops are moving towards or aligning with the hub and spoke model of CTH, we will likely be able to support the genotyping expenses through this unified charge account. On top of that, the charge account is also expected to help all the users to drive down the existing administrative costs associated, such as wire transfer fees, raising PRs individually, and so on and so forth. And the final aim for operationalized genotyping is that we would like to, 2 to 3 years down the line, start transitioning all the breeding programs, of course, based on the scale of the breeding pipeline, towards a data point allocation mechanism instead of the current genotyping based on project resources. So we believe that this is likely going to be the sustainable model moving forward. And a lot of private sectors are already using such a model when they allocate genotyping resources to breeding programs. And the last point I would like to touch on is the network coordination and support. This is the current role of Module 3, but we do hope that we want to expand this more, especially when we have more new users. Under COVID, we expect that more web resources will become available. And under CTH, we also plan to leverage the existing partnership as well as personnel at regional hub. Exactly how to execute this will still require a bit of planning. Anna and myself will be reaching out to key users or key breeding programs in the region to sort of have a follow-up discussions on how we can embark on this train-the-trainer model, where we would like to see more of these existing staff at regional centers be uplifted and sort of play a larger coordination role to support the genotyping operations within the region. So with that, I would like to thank everybody for GIZ, USAID, and Bill and Melinda Gates for funding, as well as all the listed CG centers here for contributing to making the genotyping share services possible. And obviously, there's a lot more that I just cannot fit everybody's in on this one slide. So with that, we can start taking some questions.
So thank you, Eng. Thank you, everybody that is this session. So there are two questions, Eng. The first is from Arish Gandhi, and he's asking if the costing of mid-density platform per project or is based on early volume.
The mid-density platform per project, it is based on yearly volume. So similar to the HTPG, all the crops that are submitting genotyping through mid-density will be all summed up as our annual volume. So as the larger crops start using more and more, the per sample cost will start to come down. So it's sort of like a big crop helping the smaller crop model.
Okay. He also asked if there is any additional volume discounts for yearly commitments.
They will be starting, but it will be in the future years because we have just started launching the service this year. Annually, we will get together with all the key stakeholders and users to revise the pricing structure. Based on commitment, we do expect that pricing will start to come down. And yeah, I hope that answers the question. But we won't do it on the case-by-case basis. We will do an annual review for the crop, for all the crops together.
Okay, so Nasser Yao is asking what is the actual or estimated use need in terms of volume of genotyping of the different genotyping platforms, low, medium, and high density, by NARS, CG centers, and private sector, if any.
Okay, well, that is a very difficult question to answer. I can only give the rough estimate based on the EIB managed shared volume. So for the low density, the last update provided by ICRISAT from Rajaguru is roughly around $1 million per annum, and we do project that to continue to grow a little bit. For mid density, right now we expect at the starting point 600,000 to 800,000 per annum. Of volume, which $10 a sample, you can think about, that's roughly 60 to 80,000 samples collectively across all the crops. High density, we don't have any volume projection yet because we don't have a service at the moment. And these are volumes that are across the CG and NARS and private sectors combined.
Okay, thank you. So Akhtar Ali is asking how can private seed companies can utilize the markers developed by the HTPG EIB platforms?
Reach out to Module 3, and then we will also link up with the respective contributors for these marker platform. Typically, most of the markers that are available on the EIB website, those are freely available. They are open source markers. However, we do have sometimes markers that are under some type of embargo to specific users. It's done on a case-by-case basis. So yeah, just reach out to us and we can try to sort out which one of those are under certain embargoes and which one are freely available for public and private use.